Do you ever feel like you're speaking a different language than your kids or your spouse? Well, today we're going to explore the world of personality profiling, and trust me, you are going to love it. By the end of this episode, you'll have a secret weapon for decoding your family's quirks, and we all have them, as well as boosting your mental health and finding that elusive work-life balance. Stay tuned. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's rock and talk. Hey there, parents and spouses. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today we're talking about personality profiling, something I find fascinating. We're going to explore how you can understand your personality type better and how this can be pivotal for improving your mental health, your relationships, and your overall life satisfaction. But before we jump into that, I just want to remind you that we have a blog that you can access on our website, fulfillmenttherapy.org. And it breaks down all of these podcast episodes into text so that you can get all those tools, get all that information, maybe later as you're thinking about it more and you're like, oh, I really want more of that information. I want those tools and those resources. And you can also sign up on our website for our weekly emails in that Connect tab. And we can send you those weekly tips as well. And you can get those discounts that are often only available through those weekly emails. So check us out there as well. All right, now let's jump into what personality profiling is all about. Okay, personality profiling is like holding up a mirror to your inner self. So it's this way to get a clearer picture of what makes you tick and how you react to things and why you might clash with your spouse over the tiniest things. And yes, it can help with that. And yes, we've all been there. Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning to all wisdom. And how well do we really know ourselves? I love taking a lot of these quizzes. I've taken a ton of them throughout all of my mental health degrees, and they never got old. I enjoyed them, and I still forget about them. And as a matter of fact, this morning, my sister texted me, and she asked me if I knew what my Enneagram number was. And I'm like, oh, I think I forgot. Like, I should go back and check out my notes on that because I loved it and I found it so fascinating. And I was like, oh, I really enjoy these things. And I know listeners would as well. So I was like, let's do some training on it. You might be wondering, why should we care though? Why does personality profiling matter? Well, I'll tell you why it was important to me and why my clients like it. Just imagine having this user manual for yourself and your family members. It's not quite as wonderful as that. It'd be nice if it was personalized completely, but we're all very different. But it's a general overview. Let me explain it another way. You can figure out how you lose your cool when your kids leave their stuff all over the place. You can understand a little bit more about your personality and what happens in those moments. And you can better understand your spouse and their needs, maybe after a busy day. It can be helpful when you're trying to understand how to motivate yourself or your kids, your spouse, and what you can do about it. So all of these things are very helpful tools. Now, there are many personality profiling quizzes, tests, all of those things out there. but I'm going to go over some of the big ones that I really enjoy and that my clients really enjoy. And when there is a free quiz, I will give it to you. Otherwise, I will give it to you in the show notes so you can check those out. But there are some that are just so big, there are not really free versions. There's some knockoffs a little bit, and you can study that yourself. But those ones you might just have to go buy the book and look up how much it would cost to take the actual quiz. All right, let's jump into the Enneagram. So, what is this one? This talks about 9 interconnected personality types, and it focuses more on those core motivators and those fears and those desires that drive our behavior. So, this can be a helpful test if you want to understand those deep motivators and how they influence your actions for whether it's you or your spouse or your children, whatever that might be. And your kids can also take this quiz. So, there is one, again, in the show notes for this one for a free. There's also a book. What is it called? I think it's called The Road Back to You, that breaks this down. And the nice thing about this book is it talks about not only different aspects of your personality, but the shadow side as well, and what you can do to balance it out better when there's conflict or different things happen with these different types. And actually, most of these do that in a way. There's also another one. I've mentioned her in the past before. I really like not only her book, but her quiz and even her podcast. This is Gretchen Rubin, and she talks about the Four Tendencies quiz. This has been around for a little bit longer. Actually, I don't know if it's as long as the other ones, but it's really helpful in understanding motivation and your four tendencies. What her quiz is all about is it categorizes people based on how they respond to both those inner and outer expectations. So with my clients, a lot of times I'll have them take this if they are feeling stuck with motivation or like how to achieve goals. I'm like, okay, let's figure out what it is for you first, because this can help us understand how to approach things. And this is really helpful if you want to do that with your kids as well. So understanding your tendency can help you create those better habits and manage your time more effectively, as well as improve your relationships with family members who have different tendencies, most likely. For example, one of your children might care more about pleasing other people, and that helps them achieve goals. And there might be another kid that doesn't care about that at all, and it's just about that internal locus of control or meeting their own expectations. And you don't parent them the same. You have to parent them differently. And this can really help to know what their tendency is, what their motivators are. And there is a free quiz on that as well. So you can look that up in the show notes. And I really would encourage you taking these because it's really fun to see who you are and gain that greater self-awareness. Again, for both of you and your children, especially, and then having your spouse do it as well and talking about it. It's a fun activity, and everybody generally likes to get to know themselves a little bit better. Now, another one that I'm sure you've heard about is the color code, and that code assigns one of 4 colors. So there's red, blue, white, and yellow, and it will talk about your core motives as well as some of those other ones. This can help you understand your primary driving force and how it affects your parenting style or even your relationship dynamics. So, for example, a blue parent might prioritize that emotional connection with their children, and reds and whites, they'll have an entirely different reason for doing that. So, it can be very helpful. I thought that one was fun to take. I could not find a free version of this one right now, and I remember having that same problem before. But there's probably ones that they call it something else, but very similar. So you might want to look that up yourself. Otherwise, you can go ahead and pay for that and take that because that is a very big one and it is very helpful. And then I want to talk about 2 other ones. The Myers-Briggs type indicator. So that's MBTI. So what is this one? So this gets really specific and breaks down personalities into about 16 different types that we can all mostly fit into. And when you take this, it helps you understand how you perceive and judge the world. So this can be really helpful in understanding your child's learning styles and as well as their communication preferences. This allows you to adjust, again, just like those other ones, your parenting approach for each kid. And last but not least, we have the Big 5 personality test. So this measures different things like openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So this is widely used for psychological research and can give you this comprehensive overview of your personality, just like those other ones, but in a slightly different lens, and can be very useful for understanding how you might react in different situations, which It really is helpful in both parenting and in marriage. Now, why do these things actually help? And do they actually help? Well, it's not just fun information, but it can be incredibly helpful when you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck. And the thing I love about it is it validates your experience. Clients often say things like this to me. Oh, so I'm not the only one who needs to recharge after socializing or things like that. Like it helps take away the shame of your edges, your shadows, and recognize that a lot of people like this respond in this way. Like there's the virtue side, there's the vice side. Now, what can I do about those things now that I know what they are? Like, oh, these same people with a very similar personality get stuck in these areas, and this is what they can do to overcome it. So that's what I find very helpful, and that's what my clients find very helpful. It also improves communication. When you understand your spouse better or your children better, it prevents you from being so reactive. It also helps to improve stress management, and you might be wondering, like, how does it help with that? Well, it can help you discover better coping strategies that actually work for your specific personality type. Socrates said, understanding yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. My friends, how well do you understand yourself? Like, really? Or your children or your spouse? Now, let's talk about the application for parents and spouses because I know a lot of us are going there with our brains as well. Again, it helps you tailor your parenting for each specific child. For example, if you have an introverted child, you might need to approach things differently than your extroverted child. And I know that you know that if your kids are a little bit older. Like my son is much more introverted and he needs longer to recharge and he needs more alone time. And there's moments where I just cannot understand that. But when I investigate personality profiling, I'm reminded of the different things I can do to help him in that regard. It can also spice up your relationship in your marriage because it will help you understand how you can do things that you both enjoy and how you can respond in better ways that will resonate with different personality styles. Now, I want to give you a word of caution. Before you go all in on personality profiling, remember, don't put yourself in a box. Your type doesn't define your entire being. There's a book that I read by Dr. Benjamin Hardy called Personality Isn't Permanent. And he said actually just that. Personality isn't permanent. You're not stuck being one way forever. So it is a tool. It's not a life sentence. So use it to grow, but not to limit yourself and say, no, this is who I am. I can't deviate from this. Like, you're just going to have to deal with it. We have the ability to change and adapt and to grow, but it can help us understand ourselves better. Benjamin Hardy said, your personality is not permanent because it can and does develop over time, which I completely believe. So that's one thing I don't like about it is people get so hung up on that part that they don't focus on that aspect enough. Like if you're not careful, sometimes it can get into almost looking like horoscopes where you rely too heavily on them for information instead of recognizing, oh wait, I can adapt, I can change, I can move outside of this label. So don't let that label become so big that it becomes your everything. So with this information that you get from the personality profiling, you can better learn how to set goals on who you want to become and not just who you are now. So you can step outside of your comfort zone now that you understand a little bit more of who you are and some potential challenges. You can learn how to overcome those a little bit better. My friends, remember that understanding your personality is just the starting point. Use these insights to become the best version of yourself, both as a parent and as a spouse. It shows that incorporating personality assessments into your personal life or into therapy leads to 30% increase in successful treatment. So it does help as long as you don't cling to that label and tell yourself that, oh, I'm stuck. There's no hope. Dr. Taylor Hartman said, do not apologize for your personality. It's beautiful that people have a personality and they value it. Now, I would, again, with that, put a word of caution. If there is something you've done on your side of the street that could benefit from some ownership, then yes, apologize. Now, if you are just introverted and you like that aspect of yourself and you need more time to recharge, you don't have to apologize that you're not going to be super extroverted. And you can lean into that a little bit and recognize you can't just use it as an excuse and say, no, I'm just introverted and I will not put myself in those situations because that's just who I am. You can understand the drawback if you take it too far. So I wanted to present you with both sides and do what you will with it. And that being said, it is fun to explore. It is fun to know that you are not alone and there are things that you can do to improve your life and your parenting and your communication with your spouse. All right, my friends, that is all I have for today. I hope you enjoy taking those quizzes and finding out a little bit more about yourself and how you can improve your family relationships as well. Don't forget to check out our courses on fulfillmenttherapy.org. Remember, we have Find Your Focus to start your online business and podcast. We also have Ignite Your Life, a personal growth course to take your life to the next level. And we have Mend Your Marriage to deepen your emotional and physical intimacy and connection with your spouse. So check those out. And remember, more are coming. Launch Your Podcast will be coming in the next few months, as well as Heal Your Home, a parenting course that will help you take your family life to the next level. All right, I'll meet you back here in just a few days. You take care and enjoy your wonderful week. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.